This metal is about to break the global economy. Every solar panel on every rooftop, every electric vehicle rolling off the production line, every 5G tower going up, they all need one thing: silver. And we are running out. Not in 50 years, not in a decade, right now. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you the four-stage pattern that has played out across every commodity crisis in history, from the oil shock of the 1970s to the palladium squeeze of the 2000s. And I will prove to you, with public data you can verify yourself, that silver just entered stage 3. The outcome is no longer a prediction. It is mathematically inevitable. Let's start with the numbers that should terrify every government on Earth. Global silver inventories on exchanges are down 60% in 4 years. Solar panel demand is projected to hit 200 million ounces annually by 2026, more than double what it was just a few years ago. But here's what makes this different from every shortage you've heard about. Usually, when prices rise, miners just dig more. I will show you why that is physically impossible this time. We are facing a double exponential curve. Industrial consumption is doubling, while supply is legally and geologically stuck. But silver isn't just an industrial metal. It is also money. For 5,000 years, it has been the only element that is simultaneously a critical industrial input and a trusted store of value. When exploding industrial demand hits a monetary system built on infinite debt, you don't get a price adjustment. You get panic. This isn't clickbait. This is physics. Let me show you exactly where we are on the curve. To understand where we are going, you have to understand the machine that drives every commodity supercycle. It has 4 distinct gears, and once they start turning, they don't stop. Stage 1 is complacency. This is where we have been for the last 40 years. The resource is cheap, abundant, and ignored. Since 1980, silver has been absurdly undervalued. In inflation-adjusted terms, it is cheaper today than it was during the Carter administration. Why? Because governments sold off their strategic stockpiles, and investors chased tech stocks instead of hard assets. We assumed the supply would always be there. We got lazy. But complacency always leads to stage 2, the trap. This happens when a new exponential technology collides with a supply chain that cannot move. That technology is solar energy. In 2010, solar was a science project. Today, it is the fastest growing energy source on the planet. Here's the math that nobody talks about. Every single high-efficiency solar panel requires silver paste to conduct electricity. There is no substitute that matches its efficiency. The International Energy Agency projects we will need 200 million ounces per year for solar alone by 2026. Add in electric vehicles, which use 2 times the silver of gas cars, and 5G towers, and industrial demand is crossing 1 billion ounces a year. And here is the trap. Supply is inelastic. We cannot just mine more silver. Why? Because 70% of the world's silver is a byproduct. It comes from zinc, lead, and copper mines. Miners don't dig for silver. They dig for copper and get silver as a bonus. This means that even if silver goes to $100 an ounce, a copper miner isn't going to double their production just to get a little extra silver. They are slaves to the copper price, not the silver price. So we have exponential demand hitting flat supply. That is not a market fluctuation. That is a mathematical wall. And when we hit that wall, we enter stage 3, the phase where the illusion of abundance breaks. We are tracking the breakdown of this market in real time. We are racing to hit 1,000 subscribers by December 31st, 2025. If we hit that number, I am going to release the killer video, a deep dive into the silver manipulation files, exposing the paper trading schemes banks use to hide this shortage. I'm afraid to upload it, but for 1,000 insiders, I will take the risk. So hit subscribe. Now, let's look at how this exact pattern destroyed the people who ignored it in the past. I am not asking you to believe a prediction. I am asking you to look at the historical record. This 4-stage pattern isn't unique to silver. It is the universal law of resource constraints. When an essential resource hits a supply wall, the price doesn't just rise, it detonates. Look at oil in the 1970s. For 30 years, the world assumed cheap energy was infinite. That was stage one. Then, demand exploded while US production peaked. That was stage two. In 1973, the OPEC embargo hit. That was stage three, the recognition of deficit. The price of oil didn't increase by 20% or 30%. It went from $3 to $35 a barrel, a 10x explosion in a single decade. It wasn't just an embargo. It was the realization that the era of cheap oil was over forever. Look at the Irish potato famine in the 1840s. This is a darker example, but it teaches a critical lesson. When the potato crop failed, wheat was actually available. The supply existed. But the price of wheat spiked so violently that it became inaccessible to the people who needed it. This is price dislocation. The market didn't run out of food. The market price destroyed the purchasing power of the buyer. But the most terrifying parallel for silver is palladium in the 2000s. Palladium is used in catalytic converters for cars. Like silver, it is a byproduct metal. Like silver, demand surged due to government regulations, emissions standards. When the deficit hit stage 3 in 2019, automakers like Ford panicked. They realized they couldn't build cars without it. They started hoarding. The price went from $500 to nearly $3,000 in 4 years. Silver is following the palladium script almost bar for bar. We have the complacent low prices. We have the byproduct supply trap. And now, with solar and EVs, we have the panic-buying industrial demand. The only difference? You can't run the global economy on palladium, you can run it on silver. The stakes are infinitely higher. And that brings us to the scariest chart in the world today, the inventory levels in the vaults. This isn't a future prediction. We are living in stage 3 right now. This is the phase where the market finally recognizes the structural deficit and panic begins to set in. Let's look at the hard numbers from December 2025. The Silver Institute confirms that 2025 is the 5th consecutive year of a global supply deficit. The cumulative shortfall since 2021 is now approaching 820 million ounces. That is nearly an entire year of global mine production that has simply vanished from the stockpiles. Look at the COMEX in New York. In 2020, their registered category, the silver available for immediate delivery, stood at 150 million ounces. Today, it is under 50 million ounces. That's less than 3 weeks of global industrial consumption. The London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, is reporting similar massive drawdowns. The physical market is decoupling from the paper market. For every 1 ounce of physical silver sitting in a COMEX vault, there are now an estimated 100 to 400 ounces of paper contracts trading against it. This is a game of musical chairs where 400 people are circling a single chair. For years, this paper game suppressed the price. But now, industrial buyers like solar manufacturers don't want paper. They need the metal. They are standing for delivery, and the vaults are emptying. We are watching the paper manipulation scheme break in real time because you cannot print a physical ounce of silver. Right now, there is a chorus of economists yelling, "The cure for high prices is high prices." They argue that as silver gets expensive, companies will just stop using it. They will switch to copper or aluminum. In a normal market, they would be right. But the green energy market is not normal. It is a solar vampire that cannot stop feeding, regardless of the cost. First, let's talk about substitution. You hear a lot about replacing silver with copper. It sounds great on paper. But in the real world, copper oxidizes. It corrodes. If you put copper wiring inside a solar panel that sits in the rain and snow for 25 years, it fails. And here's the kicker. The new high-efficiency solar panels, the ones everyone is switching to, like TOPCon and HJT cells, actually use 50 to 80% more silver than the old models. We aren't thrifting silver. We are doubling down on it because silver is the most conductive metal in the known universe. You cannot engineer your way around the periodic table. Second, this demand is mandated by law. The European Union, China, and the United States have passed laws requiring a massive expansion of renewable energy by 2030. The International Energy Agency projects we need to add 4,600 gigawatts of capacity in the next 5 years. That is not a suggestion. It is a legally binding commitment. This means solar manufacturers must build the panels, whether silver is $30, $100, or $500 an ounce. They cannot say it's too expensive. If they stop, they face government fines and existential failure. So we have an inelastic buyer, governments, colliding with an inelastic seller, byproduct miners. This is the recipe for a price explosion that has no ceiling. This brings us to the trillion-dollar question. The governments have mandated the transition, but they forgot to check the vaults. I want to know what you think. Do you believe the world actually has enough silver to complete the green energy transition? Or is the plan mathematically doomed? Go to the comments and type yes or no. I want to see if you trust the planners or the geologists. Because right now, the smart money is betting that the planners have made a fatal miscalculation. So, what does the final stage look like? Stage 4 is panic. It hasn't fully arrived yet, but we are standing on its doorstep. This is the moment when the just-in-time supply chain collapses, and just-in-case hoarding begins. It will likely start with a single headline. A major solar manufacturer, maybe LONGi in China or First Solar in the US, will announce a production halt because they cannot source silver paste. That single press release will trigger the cascade. Suddenly, every industrial buyer on the planet, from Apple to Raytheon to Tesla, will realize their supply is at risk. They won't care about the price, they will care about possession. They will bypass the COMEX paper market entirely and go directly to the mines, offering double or triple the spot price to secure inventory. This is when the market dislocates. You will see the spot price on your TV screen trading at, say, $50 or $60. But if you try to buy a physical coin or a 1,000-ounce bar, the dealer will tell you the price is $100. Or worse, the buy button will simply be grayed out. This is exactly what happened with Palladium in 2020 and with nickel in 2022. The exchange halts trading, the paper contracts settle in cash, and the physical metal becomes unobtainium. In this environment, the price doesn't rise in a straight line. It gaps up. It opens $10 higher on Monday, $20 higher on Tuesday. The paper shorts get annihilated, and the physical holders dictate the terms. We are watching the fuse burn down on the greatest short squeeze in history. The only question left is, will you be holding the paper receipt or the metal itself? So, why is this crisis different from every other shortage in history? Why can't we just tech our way out of it like we did with oil? Because for the first time, we are fighting two unstoppable forces simultaneously: geology and bureaucracy. Geology says we cannot mine more silver because it is a byproduct. Bureaucracy says we must consume more silver because the green transition is mandated by law. When an unstoppable force, government demand, meets an immovable object, geological supply, something has to break. And in financial markets, the thing that breaks is always the price. The window to act is closing. We are currently in the final moments of stage 3. The inventories are draining, the industrial panic is building, and the paper market is losing its grip on reality. Once the first major delivery failure hits the headlines, the opportunity to position yourself at these prices will vanish forever. This brings us back to our mission. We are tracking the breakdown of this market in real time, and we have a goal. We are racing to hit 1,000 subscribers by December 31st, 2025. If we hit that number, I am going to release the killer video. This is the deep dive investigation into the silver manipulation files, the specific mechanisms bullion banks use to spoof the price and hide the shortage. I am genuinely afraid to upload it, but if we have 1,000 insiders, I will take the risk. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with one thought. Most people go through life reacting to history after it happens. They read about the 1970s inflation or the 2008 crash and think, if only I had known. Well, now you know. You have the data. You see the pattern. You understand the math that the rest of the world is ignoring. That gives you a responsibility. Don't just watch this video and go back to sleep. Use this information. Whether you buy a few coins, invest in miners, or just prepare your household for higher inflation, do something. Being early looks exactly like being wrong, right up until the moment you are proven right. And when the panic starts, you won't be the one scrambling for a chair. You will be the one who brought your own. So, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, hit that subscribe button. Join the insiders. The sun is setting on the era of cheap silver. Make sure you aren't left in the dark. Class dismissed.